Okay. All right. All right, my light is on. Okay. Right, I will officially call to order the meeting for the July 9th Planning Board. For any interested in number 4, Mitchell Sater, that will be postponed until either August or September. So just an FYI. Number 1, Block Isle Land Trust, Martha Ball and William Ball, Corn Neck Road. Decision for an application for a United Development Review for minor subdivision of an existing parcel into 2 lots, leaving 1 residential lot and 1 lot subject to conservation easements. Application for a variance from section 306C. Okay. Any comments? If not, we voted on the thing last time, and I'll make a motion, which I believe you have in front of you. I make a motion to conditionally approve the preliminary plan for the proposed minor subdivision and grant a dimensional variance as presented, as long as the final plan includes the computation of the maximum lot coverage and a draft of an excess easement for the driveway from Corn Neck Road to the Ball residence will be granted in perpetuity to Martha A. Ball and William O. Ball Jr. and their successors in interest. Findings of fact. The subject property contains existing preserved conservation land. 2, conservation easement refers to a binding grant between typically a land trust and a governed entity and a landowner, under which the landowner permanently or during a period of time specified in the grant agrees to conserve or restore habitat, open space, scenic, or other ecological resource values on the land covered by the easement. Number 3, the Block Isle Land Trust will receive conservation rights to approximately 20.76 acres of land, including approximately 11.5 acres of already conserved land as a result of the conservation easement. 4, the proposed residential lot will be approximately 3.03 acres. 5, the subject property is within the residential zone A of the town of New Shoreham. 6, the applicant is not proposing any development at this time and receive waivers for proposals involving construction. 7, the proposed lot would have no frontage where 200 square feet is required. The planning board has found that the following standards of dimensional variance from 306C have been met. Okay, D1, the relief sought is not due to general characteristics of the surrounding area or a physical or economic disability of the applicant, as there is sufficient space for land to be conveyed. 2, the variance does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize financial gain, as the variance does not affect the pre-existing financial incentives associated with the conveyance of land for stewardship purposes. 3, the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general characteristics of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan upon which the ordinance is based, because development may not occur in the resulting parcels. 4, the variance granted is the relief necessary to remove hardship to the applicant because no additional relief is needed. E2, the hardship that would be suffered by the owner of the property, subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, as conservation easements are valuable tools to promote environmental stewardship. The planning board has found the following standards of the subdivision regulations 307, A2, A and B have been met. The minor subdivision is consistent with the requirements of the New Shoreham Comprehensive Plan because conservation easements are detailed as a way to promote land stewardship and preserve natural space for the public to enjoy while providing tax incentives for property owners. 2, each lot of the minor subdivision conforms to all standards and provisions of the New Shoreham zoning ordinance provided. A, there are no current or future plans for development within the parcel. B, in accordance with Title 36, Chapter 39 of the Rhode Island General Laws, the conservation easement will provide the people of Rhode Island with the continued diversity of history and landscape that is unique to the state without great expenditures of public funds. 3, There is no significant environmental impact from the proposed development as shown in the final plan, with all required conditions for approval. 4, the minor subdivision is proposed contains no immediate plans for development. 5, the proposed minor subdivision has adequate and permanent physical access to a public street. The residential lot will be served by an easement over existing driveway as a condition of approval, with an additional portion of the driveway branching off to service the larger resulting parcel received by the Block Island Land Trust. 6, the minor subdivision provides for the safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicle traffic, adequate provision for control of surface water runoff, suitable building sites, and the preservation of natural, historic, or cultural features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community, because there will be no change in the existing roadways. 7, the design and location of streets, building lots, utilities, drainage improvements, and other improvements in each subdivision will not create flooding or soil erosion because there will be no development. 8, the proposal shows evidence of the fact that A minor subdivision will not necessarily impair scenic views because there will be no development. B, the minor subdivision will not burden the existing water supply. C, the minor subdivision will not result in increased traffic congestion. D, the minor subdivision will not create any ground or surface water pollution. E, the minor subdivision will not alter or cut through existing stone walls except as essential to provide safe and necessary access to the property. F, the minor subdivision will not disturb any identifying unique or significant historical or archaeological sites. The planning board, you voted unanimously to grant dimensional variance conditioned on the final plan approval of the proposed subdivision and to grant preliminary plan approval to the proposed minor subdivision. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Are there any questions, any additions, any corrections?
No.
Anything from the audience? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I think a couple people missed the public hearing, so, were you at the public hearing? Chris missed it, Bill?
June? Yeah.
Okay, so it's Mary, Sosha, Margie, and Gail. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, motion carries. All right, thank you very much. Good for Block Island. Great. Okay. Yes.
Assuming no one's here for 2.
I'm assuming you're right. So yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Okay, I could, that's easy enough to do. And hearing no objections from any member of the planning board, we will switch the order of number 3 and number 2.
Good idea.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
If I'd thought of that, I would have done it too. So that's good. Thank you, Chris. I'll give my voice a rest. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening. This is an application by David Russa under 307E, 406 and 514 to construct a single-family dwelling unit, a 3-family single dwelling unit on his existing lot where he has lived since the early 1960s in a house that's older than that is now pretty decrepit and run down. The existing house, approximately the same house size as the house proposed, consists of 5 bedrooms. The proposed house has 3 bedrooms. The existing house is immediately on the boundary line with the medical services property and therefore, not consistent with the zoning setbacks, but it was built before zoning. The new house will be moved the minimum distance northerly on the lot so that it can be located within the zoning setbacks. I have here this evening Hope Russa, David's daughter, Sarah Hates of South County Post and Beam, who's the project manager and will speak for the design, and Seth Lemoyne from Principi Engineering, who will discuss the infrastructure and the and other elements of the design. So, if you're ready, I'd like to call Sarah Hates as my first witness. Jen, you have all the documents and the board members. We don't need to submit them as exhibits, or should I?
Correct. Whatever you submitted to the zoning board,
Yeah, basically, we're going to use the elevations and floor plans Sarah's going to address, and Seth will then address the existing conditions and the proposed conditions plan, all of which we've already submitted. I have
I
them.
don't think you want to mark anything as an exhibit because it's the zoning file, so it might be
Okay.
confusing.
Yeah,
You could just refer to it.
then what I'll do is I'll refer to them, but I'll assume that the board has them in their packets. Sarah, could you please state your name for the record?
Sarah Heights.
And what's your occupation?
I'm an architect project manager.
And you work for South County Post and Bean?
Yes.
How long have you worked with them?
I've worked with them for about 4 years, but they've been in operation since 1978 and have done a number of projects on the island.
And did Mr. Russo engage your firm to design his house on the lot on Payne Road?
Yes, he did.
And that lot is located next to the Medical Services Center
Correct.
and in the residential B zone.
Yes.
Would you please explain for the board how you and Mr. Russo approached this project?
Sure. Mr. Rusa approached us as his existing house had experienced a large amount of mold and water damage. So unfortunately, he was not able to remedy that and contacted us to design a new timber frame home for him. So basically his requirements were he wanted it to be roughly the same size, around 3,000 square feet, with 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, living room, dining room, 2 stories, and in line with the local characteristics of Block Island.
And based on that, you prepared the plans that were entitled Russo Residence by South County Post and Bean dated May 30, 2025, which are in the file. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you please describe, well, in the design of the house, did you take into account the provisions of 307E, 406, and 514 of the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And did you design the house to satisfy all the performance standards set forth in section 514?
Yes.
Could you refer to the plans and describe for the board the house, its compatibility with surrounding area, and its consistency with the requirements of the zoning ordinance?
Yes. So if you're able to refer to the site plan and the floor plan, we did the garage of the house closest to where the existing structure is to limit the amount that we would need to extend the driveway. And then there is a small connector area with a laundry, pantry, and powder room that connects to the main 2-story portion of the home, which extends farther east to west. If you look at the site plan, you can kind of see how the setbacks inform that massing. And Mr. Russo expressed that he wanted to not have any obstruction of his neighbor's views or to extend much farther past their residence. So we took that under advisement, and all of the dimensions are within the zoning regulations.
And really, you only exceed the large house ordinance on the square footage and the gross area, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And the house is what, 2,600 square feet which makes it over the 2,000?
Correct. The footprint.
And that's approximately the same size as the existing house,
Correct.
and well less than the maximum requirements set forth in 514.
Yes.
You mentioned the fact that the house was designed to not to impede the neighbor's views. Will it have any effect at all? Will any adverse effect on the views of the neighbors?
No.
How does it compare in size to the surrounding buildings? The medical center, that house, the school, the large house to the south of it?
Well, certainly the Block Island School and Medical Center are much larger in scale than Mr. Russo's proposed home. The school is 58,317 gross square feet, and the medical center is 6,918, which I don't believe includes the new residences that were recently completed, which are farther south than the back of Mr. Russo's house would be. And then on the opposite adjacent side is a 6,628 square foot house on lot 10, which is larger than the proposed design.
So in your opinion, is the house you designed compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in form, placement, and design?
Yes,
Um, And is it, in your opinion, consistent with the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan?
yes.
I have no more questions for Sarah if the board has any. Mr. Lemoyne will address the infrastructure and the site plan. And could you please state your name for the record?
Seth Lemoyne.
And what is your occupation, Seth?
I'm a professional civil engineer with Principi Engineering
And how long have you been a professional civil engineer?
since August of 2008.
So,
August of 2008.
does your work include site design and sewer and water connection designs?
Yes,
Does it also include drainage calculations and the design and installation of stormwater drainage systems?
it does.
Do you also design erosion control systems, soil stabilization systems, and sediment control plans?
Yes,
And have you worked with Mr. Russo and his engineers to address all these issues as they relate to the proposal this evening?
I have. Yes.
Again, we're going to, the board already has the existing condition site plan and the proposed condition site plan. But I guess before I get to those, just ask you a question that the proposal that we have this evening will be connected to the public water supply and the public sewer supply. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And now could you go through the site plan and explain this plan to the board?
Sure. So the existing lot, which many of you are likely familiar with, as Sarah mentioned, as the existing home in the front, it's a pretty much cleared lot sloping towards the north and the rear. And it's what we call category A soil. So it's a gravel soil, great for infiltration and control of stormwater. The proposed layout of the site includes a walkout basement. Minimal grading was accomplished just to achieve that walkout with 2 small retaining walls. Stormwater controls are handled through an underground infiltration system. We spec'd out a Cultex, but it far exceeds the minimum standard required through DEM and the local zoning ordinance and land development regulations. There'll be actually a decrease in runoff from the site from current conditions due to this design. And as Joe had mentioned, it proposed to be connected to the public sewer system via a forced pressure system with an E1 grinder pump located outside, and then a 1-inch water service line to an existing service lateral curb stop at the edge of Payne Road.
I have no further questions from Mr. Lemoyne unless the board has any.
Anybody got questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all we have.
Okay, then I have the list here of for a special use permit that you'd like waivers for. Does the board have any problems with any of the waivers that they've asked for? The only one that I was a little concerned about was there's no landscaping plan. Yeah. Okay, that's basically what I want to make sure, so that you had not to address that at all. That they'll just landscape around the house, but the back area is going to be basically left as is. Okay, fine. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Go ahead, put your light on. Yeah, never mind.
Since we have a new lighting ordinance being proposed, it's in the works. I'm wondering if it might make sense to look at that just to make sure all the lighting that you're proposing to put on the property, because it looks like on the building, it looks like now there's a 2nd-story deck with sliders going out. So there'll be probably more lighting than has been there. It might make sense to look at the new ordinance just to see, make sure all the lighting complies, because I think the ordinance states, although it hasn't passed yet, that within 5 years, everyone will have to upgrade to the new ordinance specs. And there's luminaire counts and all that, lumina counts and so on.
Would the house, we'll comply with the ordinance in effect. And frankly, it does make absolute sense for us to look, because it makes no sense at all for us to move this ordinance one day and have the ordinance pass the next.
Right, right. And it's close, but I don't know how long it actually takes. I mean, we're
If-
zeroing in on it.
If you're about to send it to the council.
Hey, Joe, could I just have you go up to the mic for me?
Sure.
Thank you.
If you're about to send it to the council, it will get passed by the council before we get our building permit, and therefore we will be obliged to conform to it, and we will conform.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I heard you mention and now see it here, the retaining wall. How high a retaining wall are we talking?
Hi, Seth Lemoyne from Principia Engineering. We are not proposing to design it at this point, but our grading shows up to 5 feet high at the foundation, tapering to 0 towards the building setback line.
Right, and I
Yeah.
assume you'll plant
Yeah.
that or have some.
Yeah, and there are some regulations, as I'm sure you're aware, Seth, that talks about how high retaining walls can be, so make sure you check.
Yes, I did check that.
Okay, I'm.
Proper protection and design,
You
yes.
know what? I'm gonna mention it anyway.
I'm looking at some slight changes in the grading right now.
Yeah.
Very minor, but I can look into reduce that wall height.
That would be great. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, Joe?
No, I'm done.
Okay, anything else from the board? No. Okay, Peter, can you take a look at this over the next couple of weeks and give us a town planner's perspective on the pluses and minuses, and then we can vote on this next month if everything comes through as I think it probably will?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything from the board that you particularly want Peter to look at? No. Then, okay, all right, I think it looks good, and we will have our report and take a look at it next month.
And we are scheduled before the zoning board at the end of August. So next month works fine for us.
Okay, that would work absolutely fine. 'Cause offhand, I don't see any problems, but I would be derelict in my duty if I didn't ask the consultants to take a good look at it too.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to give Joe some guidance as to whether or not he needs to bring back any of the professionals for August or even needs to be here?
In my opinion, we don't need to have you come back. But let me put it this way, if Peter finds something in the next 2 weeks and flags it, we would certainly let you know, and then we could make that final decision. But as of right now, I honestly don't see any problems.
Thank you, and that'll work. And so if anything comes up, we'll be here, and if nothing comes up, they can stay home.
All right. Thank you both very much for coming. Appreciate it. And thank you for your information. Seth, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Okay. All right, going back to number 2. Zoning ordinance amendment. Define uses in the list of prohibited uses that the ordinance does not offer definitions of. And review draft amendments and make a recommendation to the town council, including a finding of consistency with a comprehensive plan. Stuff out here. All right, we have before us the final version. So Karen, can you run through this on what the final changes were? Just so that we make sure they got done?
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
just looking at the latest draft, I'm just gonna. So we did add under 23, which has to do predominantly with trailers, shellfish was added in terms of transport. The next change was on down further at section or paragraph 110.1 for livestock. There was a request to add bees. So bees was in, and I just kind of switched the word "and" to where it needed to go. And then there was another concern further down we'll say paragraph 183.1 for tent about overly large umbrellas. I added language for personal use, meaning personal use umbrellas. Obviously, the town and enforcement would have some discretion, but to answer to the concern about, you know, an unusually large size umbrella, I think that would cover you there. And I think the last one is even further down at 191.1 underground storage. And the change there was we added of the tank and or container beneath the surface of the ground. I think those are all of the last set of changes that you were either still looking at or we made in order to get you to this finish line.
Great. Questions from the board? Mhm. Yep, go ahead.
I have a question under the general prohibitions,
Mm-hmm.
regarding houseboats.
Mm-hmm.
We're adding that, but does that mean, are we just looking at definitions or we're looking at general prohibitions also? And I'm wondering if a houseboat is prohibited anywhere. Are they allowed on private docks? Are they not allowed in the water? Where are they not allowed? I don't.
Yeah, so this is a interesting and very timely situation. Right now, floating residences and houseboats are already prohibited in your ordinance, so that's actually not a change. Both in your general prohibitions and then in your zoning ordinance, it does have a provision about how CRMC may allow them. But interestingly, the title of that section says that they are prohibited. We also took a look recently at the state law and Block Island, specifically certain areas of Block Island, and they are generally prohibited.
Okay, because I'm seeing one advertised and I'm just wondering, are they allowed on private property or are they allowed, is a dock a private property, so they're allowed on somebody's dock that's used for commercial use?
Yeah, so great question. So we know that anything below mean high water is exclusive to CRMC jurisdiction, not necessarily straight out zoning ordinance or zoning enforcement. But there have been actually cases and there are standing regulations that would support the idea that both CRMC and the town in certain instances do work together. You see that most commonly probably at the ferry dock, where you've got kind of a zoned use and you've got CRMC involvement. But to your question, generally speaking, if it's below mean high water and you've got a state law prohibition and a local prohibition, it's unlikely that a houseboat use like that would be allowed.
Because I consider, why put ourselves in conflict with federal regulation or state regulation, and how do they even debate that?
Yeah, and you're not actually. You're consistent with state law in that respect. And the other thing to consider is that state law delegates the enforcement authority of houseboats to the town council to then be delegated out, usually to the harbor master, and in your case in New Shoreham, it has been delegated out to the harbor master.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then I'll make a motion to forward to the town council the draft amendment listed below, which will provide for increased clarity regarding prohibited uses within the town of New Shoreham. And the findings are, it is 1, consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, it updates language which changes constantly. 3, increased understanding by applicants, users, and town officials. And 4, it's an efficient review of development proposals to clarify and expedite approval process. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Anything you would like to add or change to the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. This will go on to the town council. Thank you very much, Karen, for working on this. It's been a long process, but it turned out better than I thought it would. Let me put it that way. So great.
Always
thanks.
happy to hear that. That's good.
Me too. All right. Okay, going down to number 5, zoning ordinance amendments for secondary dwelling units, referred to as ADUs. Zoning ordinance, section 513, review draft amendments and make a recommendation to the town council, including a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan.
This might be me.
Okay, fine. And one of my quick questions, just kind of to start with, is I'm sure the rest of the board is interested too. Were there any changes made to the housing regulations by the state legislature in that last week before they departed? That we need,
So yeah, the 12 new laws we're expecting, or 11. 11 from the speaker's package, I think, or I guess, sorry, 10, because 2 got combined. And there were a couple other ones that probably won't affect New Shoreham. But I didn't catch anything that affected ADUs. So we're moving forward with the ADU rules from 2024.
okay,
And,
great. That's
small change between this version that's been handed out to you for this month from last month was in talking with Karen and Jen, we changed the due date for the affidavit from June of each odd year to December.
okay. Anybody have questions?
I have one.
Good.
Of course, I always have one. I had a question on the, page 15 on the definition of the abandonment and what is required if someone abandons a 513. On page 15, number 1, it states that, removing all cooking appliances and kitchen plumbing such that any reconversion to a dwelling unit will require a building permit. And I didn't realize that. And first off, number 14, page 14, 14B, there's a definition of abandonment of use, and it doesn't say that there. But to me, what's important to recognize also is I thought, wet bars, sinks were allowed in accessory structures. I don't know why we'd have to have plumbing removed in a definition. Is that going too far? I don't remember us talking about it.
I think it depends on the use. So it depends if they're going from an ADU to a shed, which is an accessory structure, or if they're going to an accessory residential structure. I think there would, they're going to ask them to take the plumbing out and put it back in. So,
Well, exactly.
but it
and I
depends
wonder,
on what
should
is
it be
allowed.
consistent and be in both? And I think that should be defined, depending on the use, plumbing is requested, because the way it's written now, plumbing has to be removed. And why make someone pull out a kitchen, a sink?
Well, for an accessory residential structure, it's not, you're not allowed to have a kitchen. You're allowed to have a refrigerator.
But
so
are you allowed a wet bar?
It's limited.
Yeah, but that's a
So-
sink.
Well, we could look at that and bring it back next month.
Yeah,
I don't want to
It's
hold up this
consistent.
whole.
I want to get it right though before we said it, and I'm kind of like a little bit conflicted on that. I don't see any reason why a wet bar wouldn't be just fine.
Just that language is existing.
Good question. I'm looking at.
No,
It is-
I'm telling you, it is
existing. So
existing.
in both 14
Yeah, it is.
B and 15, on page 15.
So
that first
yeah,
sentence,
the
it is
solicitor
existing.
did the work to comply with the state statute, and that language is unaffected by the state statute. So I think it's an opportunity for a policy discussion, but not something that needs to be amended to comply with the state law.
Okay.
We just want to be clear that we're not going from a dwelling to a dwelling. An accessory residential structure is not supposed to have a kitchen.
But I understand that. And I hate to pick this apart, but if someone abandons a use and turns it into an accessory structure where their kids can sleep over and it's got the right septic, it has everything, they're not renting it year round, they're just using it for overspill. If we're not making them pull out kitchen cabinets, why would we have them pull out plumbing? I'm just trying to make.
So I
They-
can shed some light on that. So the idea there and the language is kind of more towards the end of that sentence. The idea is that if it does happen, pulling out plumbing would stop the use, right, clearly. And then if you ever decided to put it back as a dwelling unit, you'd have to get a building permit, which would basically invite regulation back into the structure. It would invite an opportunity there to make sure that the town had inspection power and was able to make sure that the structure, whatever it is not only complying with zoning, but also building. So that was the intent behind the removing of
maybe-
cooking appliances and kitchen plumbing.
I'll defer to Karen here, but maybe you
Look
could
at it.
add the phrase as required after plumbing and before such.
Why don't we look at it, and bring it back to, next month, so we're comparing it to the existing, language for accessory residential structure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we will, anything else that we want to take a look at it?
I had a few things.
Okay, by all means. We're,
Um,
since we're gonna have it come back next month, let's get
Right.
everything this
Right.
month, so maybe we can get through it. Good, go ahead.
I think we had left off last time, correct me if I'm wrong, that we hadn't quite established what we were going to call not an accessory dwelling unit to a commercial use. I think we wanted, if I'm remembering correctly, we wanted to allow for that to happen, for someone to have like a shopkeeper apartment or something like that, but we hadn't come up with a name for that. I was wondering if there was you'd seen anything about that, Peter?
I think we're still working.
Are we still working on
Yeah,
that?
we're still working on that. That's like the next step. This is just, to bring ADUs into compliance with last year's state law changes. And then
Okay.
we'll work on the commercial ADUs.
Because I thought we had an issue, I thought we were worried about putting in the definition, that the ADU could only be associated with a residential, with a resident.
Correct.
And
Then
we
we'll
wanted
have
to
a
make sure
separate-
that we weren't, all right, I just don't want to lose track
Yeah.
of that.
We have that, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point. Got another question?
Sure.
Oh, good. I love good questions.
Again, this might be further down the line and not, I'm still harping on that line 48 larger development proposal. I just really don't. So sorry, that's on, oh shoot, my numbers have gone.
Claire, like a
Um,
different,
I was just wondering if we could define what a larger development, sorry, I'm just trying to find, oh, here it is, yeah. So 202 definitions, number 48, density residential accessory dwelling units are not included in the calculation of residential density in a larger development proposal. I know I harped on this last time, but I just don't think that that's clear enough. And I wondered if we wanted to define what a larger development proposal was for ourselves.
Peter, is that state, or Karen, is that? state
That's
law?
direct from state law. Yeah, and that's what Michelle said last month.
Yeah, and I didn't know if we could, as a town, decide what a larger development proposal was for our.
For us, because we're not like the rest of the state.
Provided it's not a defined term, which is not capitalized here, the answer is yes, but I would advise you, it's not necessary or advisable to define it in here. You're better off, using that language as you go forward, as an interpretation, issue, meaning if the issue comes up, staff can make a determination as to what that means and then interpret it. Now, that could change if state law changes and defines it. But that would give you the flexibility, I think you're looking for, without actually pigeonholing yourself into a definition.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think I see both sides of that, but if that's your advice, then great. If no one else is harping on it. Then 405C. Shoot, where was this? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I answered that question. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is the opportunity to be having these policy discussions, but I know when we talked with the housing board, we talked about condoization, and I just wondered if that was something we wanted to talk more about, condoizing ADUs as part of this discussion, or if that's a discussion later. And then also in 406, having some kind, I know there's some stuff about including an ADU in the footprint of a large house, and whether or not that's something to pursue, whether there's additional relief granted if there's going to be an ADU associated with a large house, or if it's within the large house, there's additional relief. Again, these are more things to put on the list as policy conversations. I don't know if we need to delve into them right now, but they came up as I was looking through all this.
I can just let you know that we have the first item that you mentioned on the September 10th agenda.
Oh, great.
I've been working with Ashley Sweet.
Oh, great.
Following up from the previous meetings.
Great.
So
Yeah, I just think
and
there's a lot
then
of.
we still need to meet with
opportunity there.
Karen and Peter, and then we'll come back to the board.
Awesome. Great. Sorry, I'm almost done. 513 B11. The part that talks about after 15 years you can abandon the use. Or you got relief and then you can, let me find the language so that I can. Sorry. B11.
I think that's only if they're getting the 600 square feet.
Yes. So what happens after those 15 years? Do you can stop having it be an ADU and continue to have that extra that extra footprint? Okay.
Karen, I mean, I'm assuming that's correct. Could abandon the unit at that time if you wanted to. That's not part of state law. That's something that
Yeah.
the town wanted to add as a bonus for having an ADU.
Correct.
At some point, maybe we will pull out some of the bonuses and just leave the ADU and then create a new section to encourage a different version of an ADU.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
that at all. I just wanted some clarification about what happens. Can you convert it to accessory residential, and then, but you still have that extra. Obviously, I don't want people pulling off their 600 square feet of their.
Right, you don't have to tear it
structure.
down. You just have
Right,
to.
right, but I just was curious what happened after the 15 years. But it sounds like that's your bonus. You got that because you provided it for 15 years.
15
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
Yeah. And it actually came up because there was a specific application where they were shy a few hundred square feet, and the 600 would have done it. And then the owner didn't want to do it anyway because they didn't want the 15-year restriction.
Right.
And honestly,
That's
we
what I
could
think.
probably pull it now because of
Yeah.
the changes to non-conforming lots.
Right.
Probably
Yeah.
Not necessary, but
Right.
I haven't had anyone use it, so
Hmm.
in a while.
And I think that does it for me. I mean, I think,
Thank you for keeping a list of all of those
oh, sure.
pending. Just
Sorry if they're coming up at the wrong time right now. There were things that get. flagged
No,
as I read
it's
through
great
it.
because then
It
because
comes-
Margie does the
comes
same thing and
back
then I
to-
do that, so we're keeping track of everything. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else with comments or questions?
I just have one quick comment since you're making a list.
Yeah.
I would love to put on the list a discussion on the side about the secondary dwelling section that's in section 403, because we had talked about eliminating that and then it didn't get eliminated. And when I read it again today, it just doesn't make any sense to have it. But that's something I wonder if we could put that on an agenda for discussion.
I can add it, but it might shift around,
Mhm.
depending on
Sure.
some of the state,
Right.
mandated changes.
Mm-hmm.
And we did just use it for, Goriab. Secondary dwelling development.
Yeah, but they had the acreage. This is for just someone who doesn't have enough acreage to subdivide.
Mhm.
They had enough acreage to subdivide,
Yeah, you have to have enough acreage to subdivide.
not in the secondary dwelling
You do.
development.
Well, you do in order to support it. Years ago, you did not need to. Now,
But
it
I
was
just read, well, maybe
amended.
we should sit down and read it together because I don't read it that way.
Okay.
It says if you do not have, it's clearly specifies you cannot subdivide, you don't have enough land to subdivide, but you're allowed the secondary dwelling within 50 feet of the other.
Correct, but you still need 120,000 square feet for each dwelling. So we can look at it, but
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm
Check it out.
fairly confident that Margie wanted that amended after there was a particular application that,
Yeah, read it for me.
So check it again. Things change. Okay. Anything else?
Oh,
Okay.
I had a quick question on the categories allowed by zoning district, because it's in this document. It says that auto sales, service, repair is prohibited in Old Harbor Commercial, but there's clearly a service, repair shop in Old Harbor
Yes.
Commercial.
And we need it.
Yeah, so
We do not want to get rid of it.
is this the time to alter that and put it as a special use permit in case? I mean, they didn't have to apply, they didn't have to.
I think they're grandfathered, aren't they?
Yeah. But if someone abandons that use,
Exactly.
then they could never
Yeah.
come back and get it, or?
No, I thought that use was abandoned, see if they left, someone could still open up an auto repair, but if they open up something else, then use is abandoned, can't. Future,
I don't know.
that's the way I
Oh,
understand
yeah, okay.
I don't know.
it. Do you follow it, like it's,
Mhm.
right now,
Yeah.
it's auto repair, but if someone, open up a car shop, then
Mhm.
it can no longer be auto repair in the future, as I understood it.
And do we want that kind of restriction is my question, because
I
we
can't
need
believe
auto repair.
is-
You don't think it should be?
the
Oh,
only
yeah,
zone,
yeah.
the only zone that it's allowed in is a service commercial. So we could put that, on a future agenda. I just don't think, I don't know if you want to change that right now.
I didn't know. what-
Because it's not on the agenda, so.
Okay, gotcha.
That's just your use table that Gail's looking at.
Yeah. Okay.
That might be
Maybe.
something to add to your list,
Yeah, I can add it.
add to the list. In case we have nothing else to do this fall. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we will have this come back next month with the corrections. And I would ask one thing. We're getting to have a number of these different things. If they could put a date or something on the newer versions so that we don't, I dropped them, I'll give you an example. I dropped them all on the floor. It
Yeah,
took me several minutes
Yeah.
to figure out what order all this stuff done because I had listed it by months. I had to go through. So if there was some way of declaring a month or a version or whatever, so that it is easier to
I agree.
put them in order.
Yeah,
you know.
I usually put it, I write
Yeah,
it on
anyway.
mine, but,
They,
could,
we have a few of these and now I've got them listed by months. This was in May, this was in June and so on. But that should be something that comes with the audit, just because
Yes.
somebody else might not know what order. it
and a
is.
clean copy.
And a clean copy
And a
is also
copy with
extremely
all of
helpful.
the amendments, because I think some people prefer to just read the clean copy.
Yeah, I like
I know you
the
discussed
to
that.
see how it flows without all of the crossouts, which I definitely know we need, and I know we need to have discussions, but in the end, but I do find that it is, if we could label what they are, versions or months or something that shows the order that which we worked on this would be helpful. Okay, good. No, we'll give that. Okay, okay, we've got number 6, or outdoor lighting. Peter gave us some diagrams and so forth, which I would love to have him go over.
Those are already in the zoning ordinance. Those are currently.
Currently in the zoning ordinance.
But I'll
Yes, there's a 2-page document that has some examples of
Right.
how other communities in the region regulate lighting with respect to flagpoles and flags.
Questions, comments? One of the things that I saw that you had in here was the outdoor lighting in regards to flagpoles, which I thought was of interest, which we might want to talk about as to what we want in our document.
Right.
How do you put lighting, how do you light a flag? Because I know you're supposed to technically.
Yes.
But how do you light a flag upward to the flag when isn't our ordinance basically saying all lighting has to be facing downward?
If it's below a certain lumen, then it can be directed upward.
Okay. That solves that then.
I mean, left to my own devices, I prefer the light to go up so that the flag is lit. But
You
I,
have two, you have one overhead, one BI that's lit up from the bottom, and then you have one on Weldon's Way that's lit down.
Top.
So you can look at either.
Yeah.
It's-
I mean, most of them are done from the bottom up, as I
Yeah.
understand, which is,
Yeah.
I guess that would be my preference, but I'm open to suggestions.
The one on, I mean, the question is who's determining what's under influence.
Right.
Right.
And who's lighting their flag?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's a solar light, so it's not like it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
Very annoying.
I think we would easier to do it from the bottom, say that we want it lit from the bottom up. It's easier to check on for one thing, but that's, I'm open to discussion.
He's gonna climb that.
Oh, nobody. Okay. Other comments?
Am I reading this wrong? 4 and 5 seem to be the same thing in here. Under D, under D.
Which one?
5, 12, D, 4 and 5. Did I missed a word, but I think they're the same thing.
That happened several times.
I agree with you. I think that's a typo.
And then I wondered if it should say all residential lighting shall be controlled such that an
I
automatic.
think it's in,
I don't know if it's shall or may. The others had a shall or may, so I didn't know if it needed to be.
I believe that was moved from a different section, but or copied from a previous version, but I think it would make sense to add the word shall there.
Great.
Okay, so we change that. Okay. Other comments or questions?
Is there a reason that the we won't be providing this as part of the building permit packet? Is that just not done anymore, or I just wasn't sure about that? If that got taken out, that it wasn't gonna be, this ordinance wasn't gonna be provided as part of the building permit package? Did I read that right? Yeah.
Peter, I'm not sure if you could answer that question or not, but I don't know.
I think you and Michelle and I talked about it,
Okay,
and I think it was just never the practice, and there's technological challenges now with e-permitting to do that.
Okay.
How are people supposed to know that there is a regulation if it isn't even just a document submitted with a building permit, even if it's not necessarily asking for compliance, if it's just a document?
I think that's what we were talking about. I think at the previous meeting, we were discussing whether or not to require a lighting plan. But keep in mind, that could be for a deck, a shed.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to define.
I wouldn't necessarily think that I wouldn't really care to have to require it. I would love to see just a document as an attachment in the application process so people can download it so they know what the expectation is.
Not be on the checklist that you've done that.
Yeah, and then it's just part of the checklist of a building permit. You've read and reviewed the lighting ordinance of the town of New Shore.
Right. Right. Not necessarily.
That's a
that
good
you
idea because
submit
yeah.
a plan, but just that you have seen it and,
Yeah,
Yeah, and if you make a mistake, that's your problem, not ours.
And understand it.
Well, so they have
Or ask
a
questions.
zoning plan review form that it's just to review like the bigger applications. So we could add it to that form. You see it in your zoning applications. 'Cause everyone likes it, so we've been using it.
yeah.
Yeah, we can just add something.
Yeah, and it's the onus is on them to read it, but at least we're presenting it so they don't have to be surprised after they've built their house to find out they don't have the right lighting.
That's fair.
And because a neighbor complains and they'll say, I had no idea.
Or also, if they do come to us with that tag from their architect, it's clear that they're abiding by the regulation.
Yeah.
Because we had applicants that were off, before, even though spec'd out, they weren't proper lighting.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Good idea.
So Jen, you want to make the corrections on here and we'll have it, look at it next month?
Peter, do you have anything else, Karen?
No.
And then
I
we'll
do not. I think I missed the end of the conversation about informing folks, but and then
just trying
also
to
wasn't
figure
sure.
out how to do that. That's all. Just like a practice to follow.
Okay.
And then we want to save lighting for the flagpole from the ground up. Are there any other,
Okay.
any other alternate things we want to change?
Say that again?
Just a nickel lighting of the flag again, Marty? Is it
Sure.
clear- Is it clear the restriction of the limits of light to use to highlight the flag?
Maybe we should include that. You could have a flag lit from the base of the pole up to XYZ lumens, however many that is. I don't know what that number is, but they can find it.
So I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. Tells you
Face
what,
up only.
yeah, face up only. Because we're not about to climb a flagpole and check out stuff.
I've seen Marky.
Did you see me doing that? In my spare time. And one last chance, anything else we wanted alter or add or discuss? I think that's probably it. And hopefully by next month, we can go ahead and pass this and send it on to town council. Agreed? Yes. We want to get it right, but I think we also want to make sure that it gets to the town council in a timely manner. All right. And there are the minutes will be, are not available. They haven't been finished. And so they will be ready for us next month. Anything else before I make a motion to adjourn? No. Okay. I'll make a motion that the meeting be adjourned. Do I have a second? I don't
Second.
say thank you. I mean, we can continue the meeting. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, guys. That's great.